Do you want to know the secret to my success? Eating shit.
This is DSP, and I am the Digital Headhunter. Digital Headhunters are the new breed of recruiter who don't belong in three-piece suits and prefer freedom and impact more than expensive business cards. We're the misfits who play chess in corporate America, and yes, HR is a four-letter word. We're here to wage guerrilla war against the big-name brands and win. So watch as I scale up my practice, and along the way, I share all my digital marketing strategies, real-life sales techniques, recruitment hacks, and big biller interviews. Welcome to the Digital Headhunter.
Yo, what is up, headhunters and executive recruiters? This is your boy DSP, David Stephen Patterson, and today is going to be a fun day. So, if you've seen my show yet or my video yesterday, we started off talking about the war of art. This journey we're about to embark on over the next few days is going to be a journey through the war of art, written by Stephen Pressfield. One of the most important, actually the most important book I've ever read. It's had the most impact on my life, and of all the people I've ever coached, people that have been in my Facebook group, the Headhunter and Executive Recruiter Community, link down below if you haven't checked that out. It's the book that's most affected the most people I know. I mean, everybody I've told to read this has come back and said, "Oh my God, this has affected me massively." And so much so that I read this book every 6 months or so. I buy several copies and give it to friends and family. It's that important. And in this book, he talks about how to break through your blocks, winning your inner creative battles, and in essence, how to overcome the greatest enemy of all, and that is yourself. So, anyway, in this book, he talks about a concept called resistance. So if you haven't seen yesterday's video, go watch it, because I talk about what resistance is, this malignant force that opposes everything that you do that is of a positive nature, whether it is trying to get in shape, you're trying to get tighter abdominals, you are starting a new entrepreneurial venture, you are trying to up your billings, you're trying to fix your relationship, and the list goes on. Try to write your the next great American novel, you're trying to paint your masterpiece, whatever it is, there is always resistance. You may call it writer's block. It may be hitting the snooze button one too many times. It's the chocolate ice cream at 11:30 at night. It's the fear of starting a business. It's the procrastination. It's the yada 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 yada. The list goes on and on, right? So what we're going to do tonight is, before we dive in further into the book, I'm going to tell you my story. So this is a story I've told a few times, so you may have heard this before if you've been in my circles, but this is the story behind how I closed my first deal in this business as an independent recruiter. So many years ago, back in '97, I started my career in staffing. I actually was doing temporary staffing at the time. I started off doing temporary labor staffing through a company called Labor Ready, and then moved to Kelly Services. I guess I was a Kelly girl, and did Kelly. I staffed a call center in Tucson for a while. Did very, very well at that. Moved to Florida, and got with MRI, Management Recruiters, and that's where I started my search career. And I spent a couple of years recruiting insurance underwriters. So anyway, I quit doing that and started my company, my first search firm. I'm on my second now, but my first. And but I started it in the industry that I've been recruiting now for the last 16, 17 years, and that is in the SAP space. All right, now here's the crazy thing, right? I was top biller in the MRI office, and I wanted to start my own business. And so what happens is you once you have a foot out the door, you stop doing the work and you stop billing. So all that money I'd saved up, I had about 25, 30K in the bank, and at your mid 20s, I was banking, and I had no expenses, I had an apartment and whatever. So I was living large and I was balling. Well, unfortunately, I stopped working. And I started thinking about the business I want to create, and started doing business plans and spreadsheets. What about this? What if I do that? I'll stress testing my numbers and all that kind of crap, right? Because I wasn't going out and actually starting the business. So I burned through my cash. I actually kind of forced my own hand in starting the business. So I started it. And it was out of, by this time I had no money left. It was I worked out of my house at the time. I was renting a house for like $1,000 a month at the time, which obviously when I started the business, I got a few months behind on that. I was afraid of being evicted. But I started the business. Didn't have any money coming in. And in an industry that I had no experience in, didn't know the technology, I didn't know the companies, didn't know the candidates. It was before LinkedIn, right? So all you kids who are starting a business and you think you have it hard, dude, you've got LinkedIn. It is literally a database. I didn't have that. I didn't have that. My database was calling. I don't even have a phone on my thing. Who uses a phone anymore? So here's my cell phone. I would call up. It wasn't a cell phone. It was a hard line with a cord. I would call up and try to ruse names. That's how old school recruiters used to do it. Anyway, but I busted my ass and I got job orders. I got clients, right? Now at the same time, I had a laptop that I bought used for about $100. That was crappy. It had a screen about maybe like that, like a tiny Dell. The screen was maybe like that big. It was super, super small. Working off a kitchen table, so it was a hardback chair. No money. Had to hide my car. During the course of this, had to hide my car so it wouldn't get repossessed because I was so late on car payments. For a while, I'm not very proud of this, but had to participate in some potentially illicit activity, and in order to make ends meet, right? Not stealing or anything like that, but selling certain things, and but just again to make ends meet. I had to do what I had to do what I had to do, right? Sold all my CDs, sold all my DVDs, and for those of you who are you millennials, CDs and DVDs are these old things. They're discs that used to play movies on for DVDs, or in the case of CDs, music. We didn't have streaming back then, and I had the greatest DVD collection. It was amazing. Sold it all just so I can afford some food to eat, So it was tough, but I refused to go get a job, and so I got my first offer for a candidate, and man, I needed that money, and you know what? It's turned down. Come next offer, turned down. Next offer, turned down. I went through 9 offers before I got my first deal. My very first deal was with a company called Valero Energy. It's an oil company out of San Antonio. And I still remember this guy's name. I'm not going to say it here because I don't want people to look him up. But he was a FICO analyst, Hungarian. And turns out the manager he talked to was Hungarian or Eastern European. And so they hit it off, and they hired him, and he took the job. And it was a $95,000 a year job. It was a 30% fee. So it's a pretty healthy fee at the time. Back in 2004, or maybe it was late 2003. I don't know. Anyway, so it was about 28,500, I believe, something like that. So I was like, oh my god, like it was huge, and that was about 6 or 7 months into this new venture. 9 offer turned downs. Anybody else would have quit, and I just literally said, this is my test. This is my test, right? This is this is the universe testing me. How bad do you want it, son? And I wanted it bad. So you might think that's the end of my story, but no, it's not, because that would be a pretty boring story. So it gets really interesting here. So placed it. It took me forever to get this guy to start. Finally started, and then of course, back in the old days, before they used to pay things ACH, or they didn't really do it very often. Everybody mailed checks. So I had to wait for the check to come in. I was checking the mailbox every single day. And then realized as I'm waiting for the check, I'm like, oh, I should probably open up a business account so I can deposit that check, because I didn't have a business account. I just started it without even thinking about it. And then I realized, oh crap, I need to incorporate. I didn't have a real company at the time. I just used the company name I made up. I had no company. There's no incorporation. So I went and scrounged up enough money, borrowed money and did whatever I had to do to go, uh, pay. It was like incorporate.com, whatever, and incorporated. Got that. Got my EIN number. Went to the bank, opened up a business bank account. I think they require like $100 to open it up, and was able to scrounge up the money to open up a business bank account. So I had that. Check came in. I'm like, oh, thank God. $28,000 check. Oh, I'm just thinking of how it's going to improve my life and get my credit back on track and all that kind of jazz and pay back all my back bills and all that. Take it to the bank, and they said, yeah, it's going to be about 2 weeks before we can release these funds because, it's a brand new bank account. You were just incorporated. In fact, you just incorporated right when this check was cut. Looks really fishy to us. So we're going to hold the check, and it's going to be 2 weeks. And I said, I don't have 2 weeks. So I took the check, and I said, well, how am I going to get the money on this one? I went to, in a moment of desperation, I went to Amscot. Now, for anybody who lives in Florida, in the Southeast, you'll recognize Amscot as a kind of like a paycheck advance place, right? You go there, it's usually not the best parts of town. You go there with a paycheck, or they do paycheck advance, or they'll cash check people who don't have bank accounts, and it's pretty expensive because they charge big fees because you don't have a bank account, right? It's Amscot. So I went there with this $28,000 check. I had no idea if they'd even accept it, and I said, hey, would you do anything with this? And they, to my surprise, they said, hold on, and I talked to them about what my business was, and they said, well, if we can call them and verify it. So they called Valero Energy to verify that it was a real check. How embarrassing is that? I was desperate. They called to verify, and they verified it, and they gave me $10,000 in cash. And they gave me another, $18,000 in like a money order or cashier's check or whatever, cash equivalent. And they charged me about $500 for the deal. So I walk out of there. And it wasn't like they took me to the back room and did this at the front counter in a bad part of town. So it wasn't like, nobody there. There's people there that probably knew I was walking out with these big wads of cash in my pocket. Again, $10,000 in cash and $18,000 in cash equivalent. And yes, I was sweating bullets. So I made it out there alive, and was able to get home with my cash. Actually, I take it back. I went to the bank first and said, well, you take the money now? It's cash. And they did. So that was my first deal. That's where it started. You see, my father taught me a very important lesson that he learned from my grandfather. My dad told me that, maybe there might be better people better looking than us, as Pattersons, more talented than us, smarter than us, and that's all well and good. And we're pretty smart, we're no dummies. We're no dummies. But he said, look, no one will ever outwork Patterson. And he learned that from his father, my grandfather, who actually adopted my father. That's where we get the Patterson name from. It wasn't our biological name. So anyway, but he took my father in and raised him, and then of course kind of help raise me. And the lesson I got from that is this: is that the secret to success is eating shit. You see, some people are dealt a great hand. Some people are not. Some people are lucky, some people are unlucky. No matter how bad your hand is, you could have been born in a grass hut in Zimbabwe, but you're not, or a mud hut, whatever. You could be born, in poverty, in a third world country, but you're not, right? And so, when you look at the cards you're dealt, whether how hard you think you may have it, there's people out there with infinitely worse odds than you. All you need to do is get pointed in a direction and be smart about it. Don't be dumb, but get pointed in a direction and drive the fuck on and keep driving, eat shit in one direction, and keep going. And you may not know when that will end. I honestly did not know it would take me 9 offers to get my first deal. Now, first turn down happened. Well, I got to get my second and my third. And it turns out, of all times, how my worst slump ever, it was then. Of all times, I've never had a slump that bad, not even close to that bad. At the worst possible time when I most needed it, right? And I think to myself sometimes, what if I would have quit on the eighth deal? How would my life be different now? I can tell you that my son had already been born, but I can tell you if I quit, my daughter wouldn't be born. My oldest daughter, she's 13, Nika. My youngest daughter, Isabella, would not exist because my life fundamentally changed when that happened. The people whose lives I've touched, and I'm so grateful for that. A lot of my students and a lot of recruiters and search firm owners that I've been able to help because I do a lot more than just recruiting coaching, right? There's a lot of life work that I do. I wouldn't have been able to do that had I quit after the eighth turn down. If I didn't, call me stupid, call me stubborn, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, it's meeting that resistance head on, you know, and recognizing it for what it is, a test. Now, granted, was the universe testing me? I'm not a, look, you may believe in that stuff, and maybe I do to a certain extent, maybe not. I don't know, but it doesn't matter what I believe or what you believe. It doesn't matter if the universe really is testing you or not. It doesn't matter. It only matters how you look at it. Because if you look at it as, this isn't going to work, this doesn't work, this is, I'm stupid, I can't, I'm not cut out for this, then that's going to be true. If you look at it as this is a test, probably isn't a test really, but you got to think that way. This is a test because you know why? When you think it's a test, what it does is it tricks your brain into saying, well, shit, if I'm being tested, I'm going to work harder, right? I'm going to work against that test. It's kind of like when you're running. When you're a kid, you're running. You run faster than you ever run when you're racing against somebody else. If you're just running, you're just running. But as soon as your buddy wants to race you, you're flat out. You're blah, blah, blah. And of course, when you're a kid, you always run like this. 'Cause you think it's faster, for some reason. But that's the thing, right? You got to gain your mental hardwiring, and we'll be talking a lot about this over the next coming weeks. How to gain your mental hardwiring. But that's one way you can gain it, is you got to realize this is a test. How much shit can I eat and put in front of put on a plate, put in front of me, put my napkin in, and get my fork and my spoon and my knife and just dig right in and be, please sir, can I have some more? Because I don't give a shit, because I know there's going to be an end sometime. And the people that are too proud, or believe they're too smart for it, or they're too good for it, or they're too whatever, they're not going to have the life that you can have. I'll tell you this one thing too, and you see this sometimes. If for those of you folks who maybe weren't the high school quarterback, right? Didn't have all the girls, or maybe you were the homely girl in high school and didn't get all the guys, and you weren't popular, right? And maybe you weren't even the smartest person on the block, right? The nerd isn't always the smart one. Maybe you have social anxiety. Maybe you're just whatever. You have no friends. That was me in school as well. And I have a severe speech impediment. I still do. I have apraxia, verbal apraxia. Don't look it up. It's they used to think it was a stutter back then. And when you look at that, and you look at the Blake, blonde hair, blue height, and he's just beautiful, and he's got the BMW his parents gave him, and he's a high school quarterback. And sometimes you see something like that, and maybe they do succeed because they have a good hand, they've got a good starting hand. But a lot of times they weren't able to build that intestinal fortitude because they never had to struggle. And they get out into the real world where mommy and daddy aren't clearing the way for them anymore, and shit gets real. and you get somebody who maybe, like who I was, right? Socially anxious, couldn't talk, and then get into this recruiting thing. But then, I start this business, and I'm just too dumb to quit, and just keep going, and I make it. I'm successful, and I look at maybe the same guy, Blake, in high school, the quarterback in high school, and he's working on my car. And I see this a lot. You see the guy who he wasn't popular, or the girl wasn't popular, and what do? They get out of high school and they go start working out, right? Because they want to look good, and they start grooming themselves. And they take care of themselves, and they get smart, and they work hard, and they don't go out and party or join the fraternity in college and just get drunk every night, and piss off their formative years, or piss away their formative years. And they make shit happen. And those are the people that are successful. I wish I can look in every high schooler's. I wish you take the typical high schooler who's unpopular, who's depressed, and just say, look, it gets better. It does. Believe me, it gets so much better. Right? So, I'll leave you with this. It's about eating shit. Read this book. Okay? This will teach you about resistance. This will teach you about how to deal with those hardships that come along. I wish I'd have read this book back then. I actually read this book about maybe 6-7 years ago, but I wish I'd have read this back then. But I'm so lucky I kept the course. And whatever you're going through right now, keep the course. Keep the course. That makes all the difference. So with that said, I will speak to you, beautiful recruiters, tomorrow with the next War of Art lesson. See you later. Peace out.
Hey, thank you for watching the Thrive Daily video series for recruiters and how to pivot your business so you can survive and thrive during this recession. Make sure you subscribe, sign up at thrivedaily.io, and as always, recruiters, happy hunting. Oh.